Hi, and welcome to Your Choice 2022 General Election coverage on HOMTV. I'm Sydney Kenzer. Today we're here for a candidate interview with Norm Shinkle, who is a Republican running for the 73rd District Representative in the Michigan State Legislature. Thank you so much for joining us. At this time, we'd like to give you the opportunity to briefly introduce yourself to our viewers.
Well, Cindy, it's very good to be here. Thank you for inviting me. I've been around this area for some time, moved in 1991. Prior to moving here, I was from Monroe County. I served in the Michigan Senate for 8 years, and I got a lot of experience in local government, but I ran a fundraiser for St. Martha's School in 1993, and that was an experience. I only did that once. We helped the school get off the ground. And I've been in the choir there since 1993, or 1995 in the choir. But I'm a Williamson resident right now, and I'm active in lots of different things. Williamson Rotary, and I go to a lot of different Rotary clubs, so I know the area in that regard. I'm active in the Republican Party, and I'm very much enjoy the idea of going back into public service. I mean, right now our country, I think, needs people that use common sense in their solutions when they try to solve problems. And I'm hoping to bring that to the table, and that's why I'm running for office.
Thank you. Each 73rd District candidate will be asked a standard list of questions. For question 1, please explain how your education and professional background make you an ideal candidate for the 73rd District Representative and State Legislature.
Well, in addition to serving in the Michigan Senate, where I worked on lots of complicated problems, one in particular that I remember working with both the mayor of Detroit and the Wayne County executive. I chaired the finance committee, that's the taxation committee, and we were structuring a plan to help renovate Coble Hall. And it wasn't easy, but we figured out a way to do it, and I was so satisfied that we got it done. The tunnel under Jefferson Avenue was part of that project. It happened in the 80s. And it was an example I gave myself that it's possible how Republicans and Democrats can work together to solve problems. So that was in the Senate as a county commissioner and as a township supervisor. I had both those jobs prior to my Senate career. Solving local problems was what I was happy about doing, and I look forward to doing that going forward. It helped me learn how to do that. Going to Michigan State, I mean, one of my best experiences was at Michigan State, both in the dorm and in the fraternity. I was president of my fraternity, and just trying to oversee 50 guys at one time is not easy. You learn a lot about human nature. So my experiences throughout my life, I think, are good, and especially with my Senate career. After I left the Senate, I chaired the Michigan Tax Tribunal for 12 years, and 8 years, not 12, 8 years, and that I adjudicated property assessments, how much a building or property is worth, and that taught me a lot. I mean, both sides are always right. One of my bigger cases, one side said it's worth $200 million, the other side said $1.2 billion. And frankly, whoever you listen to, you can believe them both. And my job was to figure out what it's really worth. And so that was a good experience for me. And for the last 13 years, I've been on the Michigan Board of State Canvassers, appointed by both Jennifer Granholm initially, then Rick Snyder, and then Governor Whitmer. And on that job, there's 2 Republicans, 2 Democrats. It's a constitutional committee, and we canvass the election, certify the elections, and I learned a lot from being on that board. And one of the things I know right now is that a lot of our state doesn't trust our election system. A lot of people don't trust the outcome of the elections. After 16, a lot of people that lean Democrat didn't trust the results. And after 20, a lot of people that lean Republican don't trust the results. So I think part of what I'd like to see after I'm elected to the House is some measures passed that help improve people's confidence in the results of elections in Michigan.
Please tell us about the communities and people of the 73rd District and how you plan to meet their needs.
Well, the 73rd District is unique. It is a microcosm of our state. We have, of course, Michigan State, one of the greatest universities in the world, is here. And the district line goes through right down Grand River Avenue, which is very unusual. It doesn't have a unit of government. It goes to Grand River Avenue, but I have everything south. So that's Michigan State's campus. So I have some of the greatest professors and students in the district. And then I have basically the suburban areas, Okemos, south of Grand River. And then I have some of the great towns, little towns. Williamson, Mason, Leslie, Stockbridge, all in the district. And we got some of the best farmland in the state and some of the best farmers. And not only grain, but we have cattle and we have a little bit of everything in this district, and it's going to be fun representing it. And we have, just like the state, our series of problems is statewide. And so it's going to be just a first-class effort to represent this district.
What do you believe are the greatest needs and issues within your district, and what are your ideas to meet those needs?
Greatest needs and issues. I think an overall issue out there right now is our education system. The pandemic definitely set everybody back nationwide, and no different in Michigan. Reading, kids, if they can't read, can't learn. And that is responsibility of local school boards, but the state, it's one of their responsibilities also. I think we need to improve on what we've been doing. We have to have a higher percentage of our students pass the reading test timely, and all the tests, math included. And so that would include making improvements across the board in our educational system. I think that's our number one issue.
The next several questions will cover prominent issues in Michigan. First of all, please continue to speak on the state's teacher shortage and your plans, if any, to address it.
When you say the state's teacher shortage, the question is to make an assumption that there is a teacher shortage, and there could be for some districts. I know some don't have a shortage, but especially in this district, but this should be a statewide question. But there are a lot of people that are out there right now that would be great teachers if they were allowed to teach. I mean, think of Michigan State University. Think of all the professors, assistant professors that are there, that are retired, semi-retired, that could be teaching in high school, but they don't have a teacher certificate. So the alternative certification process should be looked at and potentially expanded to allow the school districts more access to people to be able to teach if they need to fill the spots, substitute, or even permanent. I think that alternative is a great way to fill any shortage. And I also think that if a teacher that's just retired wants to come back and substitute, they should be able to without being penalized. And that would help fill any shortage.
Share your thoughts on and any plans for school safety throughout the state.
Well, school safety is a matter of preparation. I mean, we all know about the recent story in South Texas where somehow one of the back doors was left open and a gentleman with a firearm got in and killed a bunch of kids. I know that there are funds, federal funds, that have been allocated, and a lot of which haven't been used yet, to improve safety in our schools, and all our schools. And this is a school board responsibility, but the state should make sure it gets done, that this money is spent to improve the security of all the schools, that we have alarms and cameras on all the school doors. It's important. And obviously having police ready for a school problem is important. we have vacancies in our police forces, and this goes right to the school problem. If there's a problem with school safety and there's somebody there ready to harm our students, law enforcement has to be there on the spot, ready to go. I mean, to be called. And just recently at a Michigan State game, I asked one of the campus officers if they have vacancies in their department. They said, yeah, everybody does. Law enforcement have trouble filling their vacancies, and we need to support that. We need good law enforcement, and the last thing we need to do is encourage anyone to defund the police. So we need good law enforcement for safety of our schools.
Share your thoughts on Michigan's current infrastructure and any improvements you plan to make.
Well, infrastructure, it's a broad question. I mean, when you think of infrastructure, you think of utilities, you think of roads. I mean, on the roads, I remember my Senate days, I always thought, why does the Upper Peninsula have such great roads? I mean, you Sault Ste. Marie, you know, they have pretty good roads up there, but they're all state roads. There's not a lot of local roads the state roads are in good shape. The formula for all our gas tax money, we pay a lot of gas tax, might be looked at, and because some of these local roads get as much traffic as some state roads, and maybe allocating some changes in that formula to make it more feasible to fund some of the local roads is something that should be considered, and I would propose doing that if I was elected. And as far as other infrastructure, the energy grid, I mean, we have to have abundant energy. So I am not anti-fossil fuels. I am not anti-fracking. We have to have a strong energy grid protected for many terrorist activities, and as part of the state legislature to help protect that. But we need a all-encompassing energy policy. And we should encourage our utilities to have solar and wind, but also consider other options to fund that grid. And with technology the way it is, some of these fossil fuels can be made to be clean and cleaner, and we should continue down that path, as we have been for the last several decades.
How do you plan to address economic instability and inflation within the state?
Well, I remember the day after I announced in April, they asked me what I intend to do when I was elected, and I said, well, I'm going to look out for that family that's trying to achieve the American dream, but they have to be living paycheck to paycheck. And when you take a look at a family living paycheck to paycheck, and I'm voting on things, is the result of the bill passing going to help them or hurt them living paycheck to paycheck? That is the definition of economic instability. If they can't make it, we're unstable. So there's a lot of things that cause that. Obviously, inflation goes right into economic instability. Spending too much money. I mean, the federal government is spending way too much money, and that's helped inflation. We're recording this today at the end of September, but just last night the legislature passed $1 billion in a budget that was already passed. It's a supplemental. The definition of a supplemental is when you have your budget that's passed for 12 months, and all of a sudden, before that 12 months is over, you add to the budget. Well, we just added $1 billion to our budget, and that's going to add to inflation. And we shouldn't have done that, not the way it was done. In a couple of hours, we passed enough legislation. We should have spent months studying all this legislation that passed in a couple of hours last night. It was chaos, and I am going to work so that doesn't happen going forward. It was not something to be proud of as a legislator. But that spending causes economic instability. Another thing is the shortage we have of gasoline and the price shooting up to $5 a gallon. I mean, the legislature recognized that this is a problem, and they passed a bill to suspend the gas tax temporarily on that. My opponent voted against that, but I would have voted for it. because that creates economic instability. And we're trying to keep things stable for those families living from paycheck to paycheck. When all of a sudden, money they spend on food has to go to gasoline, that is instability by definition. So things like that, things you have to have, like food. There's no sales tax on food. It's there for a reason, because food is a necessity. Just like if you have young kids and you need diapers, that's a necessity. You don't buy diapers if you don't need them. No one does. And there was a bill to eliminate the sales tax on diapers. I would support that. My opponent was opposed to that. It doesn't make any sense, but that would help with the stability to get the sales tax off the things that we have to have. So there is economic instability, and that's part of my equation when I look at the family living paycheck to paycheck and trying to show some compassion towards that family.
Please address the preservation of Michigan's natural resources.
Well, Michigan's got a lot of them. I'm telling you, I've been a hunter since I was a kid. My dad taught me, and I enjoy the outdoors. I live on the Red Cedar right now, and the Red Cedar goes up and down. Boy, it's not a even flowing river. And I have a little pond behind my house, and I fish. And I really, really want clean water and use conservation in our land. There's no way around that. And I think over the years that I've been involved, that I see our DNR has been doing a good job preserving our land. And I'm going to want to continue in that vein for clean water and good stewardship of our properties.
Please address Michigan's opioid usage and the statewide presence of fentanyl.
Well, the fentanyl is, we got to stop the importation. It's coming over our southern border, and the products are being made, the main product of fentanyl is being made in China. And that's kind of a federal issue. We can't do a lot about that as a state, but we got to encourage the feds to close our border. I mean, we all know how much of a problem that is. But once it gets into our state, that's another law enforcement issue. And anybody that encourages defunding the police is the opposite of solving this problem. Education, and here on campus, is as good a spot as any to promote that. I mean, I spoke at a fraternity house a couple weeks ago, and they're aware about consuming something that you're not positive what it is. I mean, if something's laced with a little bit of fentanyl, you could be dead the next hour. So we have to educate people. We have to have positive law enforcement, and we have to prosecute those that are breaking the law. We can't have lax prosecutors, and we have some. I know the Lansing area has gone to one of the top 10 murder rates in the country, and that's sad. But it all comes back to law enforcement and appropriate prosecution, which I will help to support.
How do you believe the district and the state of Michigan should approach new or continued diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts?
You know, on that question, I just believe that no one should be discriminated against based on race, gender, ethnicity, on any reason, for any reason. And I mean, that is just something that was ingrained in me when I was a little kid. And there are people out there that do discriminate against others, and I just do my best to make sure they're not my friends. So I don't believe in discrimination.
We've reached our final question. What do you think are the biggest challenges facing the district, and how do you plan on addressing them?
Well, what happened last night is it's a statewide thing, but boy, I'll tell you, we don't need passing 2 years worth of legislation in 2 hours. I mean, we need the district, it's not good for the district. But the main issue, I think, when you look at the state is education, the K-12. We need to help our school boards and not let other interests get in their way from the outside. We need to teach our kids. A child, my mom was an educator her whole life, elementary school. She was a principal of an elementary school her last 10 years. And she was big on reading. And until third grade, we have to teach a child to read. And she taught me this. And after third grade, a child reads to learn. And if a child can't read, child can't learn. And if that's the case, we have failed that child. So that is basically the number one issue. And to address that, we have to give parents alternative choices. They can't be just forced into one solution for their child. They have to have other ways of, if they're in a situation where their child's not learning, they have to use the resources that they are spending themselves, the tax dollars, to put them in a school of choice, alternative learning, some other way for that child to learn, so that child can achieve the American dream.
Thank you again for being with us. And thank you for tuning in to this candidate interview with Norm Shinkle, Republican candidate running for 73rd District Representative in the Michigan State Legislature. I'm Sydney Kenzer, inviting you to watch live election night coverage here on HOMTV on Tuesday, November 8th.